Welcome to the NWR Aussie Explorers Conference. My name is Kerry Stevenson. Next up, we have Elementos. ASX code is ELT. Joining me is Joe David. He's the Managing Director. Now, sit up and take some notice because lots of people don't realise, but tin is a great commodity to be in, and Elementos have got two great tin projects. But I'll let you talk about that, Joe. Great to see you.
Hey, thanks, Kerry. Pleasure to be here. So I'll just jump into it, guys. So thank you for having me. We do have two world-class tin assets. Our major asset is in Spain, in the Orphasia project in the south of Spain. We do have another exploration project in Tasmania. So in the spirit of this being an Aussie Explorers Conference, I've reversed the order of my projects as I'll present them, and I'll get into my Spanish project number 2. So first, I think it's worth taking you through tin. As Kerry alluded to, not many people are across tin and the critical role it'll play in, it does play and will continue to play in as a critical metal in the electrification story, greenification, the EV, pretty much anything to do with an electrical circuit. So this is an analysis that was done by Rio Tinto and MIT University. And basically you can see from this, tin is the most impacted, or the other word, that's most sensitive to us moving to an electronic future. As you see, it might surprise a few people. Tin outranks many metals and minerals that people would much, I guess, would much more quickly to identify as critical minerals. So the reason for that is that tin, in terms of weight in each technology, is very small, but it is in every single one of the technologies. So where a lithium battery might have a huge volume of weight, lithium doesn't play a major role in solar panels or anything like that, but tin is across all of those technologies. Pretty much tin is exposed to that because it is used as the primary component of electrical solder, with electrical solder connecting all the critical electrical components in semiconductors and anything with electrical circuits. So you might use copper to move electrons a long distance, but as soon as you get into a decision-making logic or a computer chip, it's tin that moves the elements around. So yeah, very critical, and certainly is on many countries' critical minerals list. Not yet on the Australian one. We're working at that, but it's on US, Canada, UK, the new critical minerals list from the UK, as well as a number of the Asian countries. So it is critical, and certainly is going to play a major role moving forward. Just for reference, tin is about 2% of the copper market. So we're a very small market, and it's been a market that's been underinvested for a long period of time. So I see opportunity in this graph, Kerry. I'm not sure about the people watching along, but effectively tin showed its critical nature in the last 2 years, when we went from about $20,000 up to $50,000 in the week that nickel did its thing after it failed getting shorted. Right now, tin has dropped away with the fears of the global recession, and it's probably been overlooked for its continued use. What we're seeing in the market, there's not a drop-off in demand, and the market's currently meeting that demand, but growth is still forecast to grow at 3 to 4% per year. And there's very few mines out there that will contribute to that growth. So certainly we want to play a major role in that. The Chinese price is still trading at a significant premium, and Chinese warehouse stocks are dropping off. So certainly the Chinese are getting through lots and lots of their tin supplies. As you see here, these are global tin stockpiles. These are a little bit delayed. People still trading about 5,000 tons. 5,000 tons. It's estimated about 8,500 tons of tin in both combined on the London Metals Exchange and the Shanghai Futures Exchange. That's about 1 week of global tin demand. So still extremely tight market, and no major inventory sitting anywhere else. The other major supply historically that fed the tin market was the US Strategic Reserve. They went up to about 80,000 tons at the turn of the century. They've been sold down to about 4,000 tons according to the latest data. So effectively, the US won't play that critical role of balancing out the market moving forward. So another reason why new tin mines are required. Global tin producers. So China is the major producer and the major consumer of tin, which puts it in an interesting part of the market. Probably where rare earths were in 2010, 2012, certainly could lead to the perception of some manipulation at times. And there's certainly some speculation of some pretty heavy shorting in the tin market right now. But as we know, these shorts tend to eventually fall away and the market returns to balance. So again, we're quite confident tin price is going to come back. And again, I think there's not a short-term opportunity there. If you start listing out the other countries, there's very little security of supply for Western economies. China, Indonesia, Bolivia, Peru, Myanmar, DRC, Rwanda. These are the major producers of tin, with producers like very small parts of Europe and Australia playing a very minor role currently supplying tin into the market. As you see from the chart on the right here, there is the major producers dropping off. Indonesia's dropping off its supply. Myanmar supply is dropping off, and China, the largest producer, also struggling to maintain its tin supply in the last 20 years, all whilst we're moving to quite a solid growth. So talking about that growth, the International Tin Association forecasts a 3 to 4% growth per annum. Historic growth has been about 2%. This is forecast quite a significant tin deficit. So by 2025, when our projects forecast to come along, there'll be about a 40,000 tonne deficit, moving to about a 70 or 80,000 tonne deficit by the end of the 2020s. That's in a market that's currently the size of about 360,000 tonnes. So significant deficits forecast, and very, very few tin mines around the world that can play a role in filling that gap. So we plan on having 2 projects delivering into that. Again, just to highlight where tin use is, other than standard electrical circuits, the key technology areas where tin is going to play a role is rollout of 5G networks around the world. They need significantly more tin. EV, it's used as a copper wire. It covers copper wire between the PV modules, so certainly plays a major role there. And then, yeah, in solar, and then of course EVs. So all those 3 technologies are going to drive a lot more growth in the next 5 to 10 years. And again, we plan to delivering into that. So reversing the order they usually do this, I'll talk about our historic asset, and that is the Cleveland Tin Mine in Tasmania. So this mine did operate twice through the 1900s, at the turn of the century, and then again from 1960s to 1980s. We picked it up as an exploration lease and held it for about 10 years, and certainly have looked at both the old tailings deposit in getting that up as a low capex operation. Subsequently to that, really started reinvestigating the old workings and have redeclared a 2012 resource of 7.5 million tonnes of tin, 0.75% tin, and it's got some decent copper credits there, about 0.3%. In addition to that, and I guess what brings another level of excitement for us with our more recent drilling, is the tungsten resource. So about 350 metres below the decline entry, there's always been a tungsten resource for the project. Below that, there's been quite a significant exploration target, JORC exploration target. But I'll go on to that next slide when I show our recent drilling results. But effectively, these are the old workings, and certainly it's on a good location in northwest of Tassie. The high voltage power line to Savage River runs through it. There's obviously roads all the way, steel roads all the way to the Burnie Port. And certainly I've just highlighted there where our exploration areas are. So we recently did a 4-hole program here with the assays we've got back from 1 hole thus far, is the hole you see going right through the middle of that red zone there. And we got some really nice results. So previously in 2020, we got some pretty good rock chip samples and service, 0.7 tin, 0.6 copper, to up to 13% zinc. So certainly it's a highly mineralized area. Tassie government supported us with $70,000 grant. We went ahead and did these 4 holes, and the first hole we've got back got us a nice hit of tin and copper on the way through past the red zone. But then what was really interesting is we hit some pretty nice intercepts, 24 metres at 0.3% wolframite. So that wolframite has been discovered, wolframite is tungsten, has been discovered about 100 metres higher than the previous 4 million tonne mineral resource of tungsten. So certainly indicates that tungsten resource might come higher up, certainly higher up, closer to the decline entry, and hopefully more economic ore. So certainly a goal for us is to further define that tungsten ore body and potentially lift that up. So what we'd then be looking at is a tin copper resource towards the surface, and just below that a pretty substantial tungsten resource. So certainly it's looking like a very interesting asset for us, and we'll move that along over the next couple of years. Moving back to our flagship asset though, and there's the Orphasia project in the south of Spain in Andalusia. It is in Andalusia, which is the premier mining region in Spain. Over 50% of Spain's mineral revenue comes out of Andalusia, and there's some very large open cut mines in the area. Cobre Las Cruces, Rio Tinto copper mine, and whilst it's not an open cut mine, the Matsa mining complex that Sandfire Resources bought into earlier this year is also very close by. So certainly really good to have a big Australian in there. They've got the confidence in mining in this area with the support of a very mature mining market and the mining laws. So good to have them come in and I guess put the flag up for Andalusia and mining in Spain. On the 9th of March this year, we were appointed to effectively what we call a state significant project status in Andalusia. 7 projects were appointed into that. 1 from Matsa that Sandfire bought into, 4 for the Rio Tinto copper mine, 1 for another small iron ore mine, and then ourselves. So to get into that group, it is a legislated group. You get government support right through your approvals and startup process. And certainly for us, it's a really good step. For those other companies are all in the $1 billion range. And for us, little old Elementos, against that group shows the relationship we've got with the authorities. We did subsequently in April this year put in our regulatory assessment. So certainly the government's currently assessing us, but certainly having this support is very positive for us. So going back a little bit now, in November 2021, we finished a large infill drill campaign, which increased our mineral resource there by 50%. And then with 88% of that resource now sitting in measured and indicated categories. That's about 19 million tonnes at 0.4%. Once we did that, because the tin price had gone on a run, our mineral resource had increased by 50%. We had decided to go into a DFS study, but to support the basis of that DFS, we decided to rerun an optimization study. The purpose of that was to effectively make sure we were mining at the optimal rate. And what we got out of that was a 15.5 million tonne production target, which hopefully through the DFS will turn into a JORC ore reserve. And that was run at a $30,000 pit shell. So good conversion, 82% of the JORC resources ended up in that pit shell. Open pit mine, all the disturbance areas were set up, and those disturbance areas from that study have supported our mine license application, our environmental application, and our rehabilitation plan. So good basis to kick off the DFS. Just to run through what the scope of it is, we upped it from a 750,000 tonne mining operation to 1.25 million tonnes. That's mined over about 12.7 years. Strip ratio of about 8.8 times. What we do is we use the ore sorting technology. So the 1.25 million tonne mining rate goes to about a million tonne mining rate. That ends up us producing about 5,400 tonnes of tin concentrate, which is a 62%-ish concentrate, which is the equivalent of 3,350 tonnes of tin metal. That's about 1% of the global tin market. So significant contributor to the global tin market. NPVs there look very nice. They'll run at a 32,500 tin price up to running a pre-tax ungeared number of about 219 million US. So this is just, I'll skip through this animation in the order of time, but anyone that wants to find it can find it on our ASX announcements. But effectively, this is just the how the asset's mined over its mine life. As I said, in April, we put in our key regulatory updates. So certainly big focus of us to get this project approved, and we're hoping to get it approved in the early stages of 2023. The other, as I said, we're in the middle of a DFS. So the key focus for us to our DFS is to improve all our engineering assessments up to like a DFS level standard, and then complete the engineering, package it up, and get it ready for the project ready for due diligence with the financiers and then project financing. So we're just finishing off our metallurgical test work program, looking forward to reporting that to the market soon. Geotechnical works have been completed. Hydrological groundwater works are also at their final stages. There is a variability metallurgical test work program, which is also at its final stages, just about to be finalised in its reporting. We've moved into detailed tailings dam designs, which include a lot of site investigations. They're all wrapping up, and we're getting significantly into our major packaging of engineering packages. So we look forward to announcing soon into the market some major, I guess, project partners that we'll be planning to develop the project with. When we did do the geotech drilling, we certainly hit some interesting mineralization outside the resource. So our geotech drill holes will plan to be in the pit walls based on our known resource. But obviously, when you do that, you see any extensions to the resource. And in 7 of our 10 holes, we hit some pretty interesting mineralization. So we've announced those results to the market, but we hit some very good tin, some very interesting zinc intercepts as well, and some copper in one zone, particularly up in the northwest. So certainly this area remains very mineralized, and there is extensions to the resource, known extensions to the resource, which we'll drill out. We are currently drilling in this bottom blue zone. So this is the remaining inferred resource that didn't get upgraded and measured and indicated. We've currently got a 9-hole program drilling that out with the aim of getting that up to either measured or indicated by the end of the DFS. Yeah, so that's the purpose of that. And on the back of that, we'll likely do a couple of exploration holes to test some of these extensions and obviously announce them to the market as soon as possible. So in terms of where we're at and where we're going, we're right in the middle of the DFS. DFS is planned to be delivered in the first half of next year. We are working very closely with the government on those government approvals. Although you do have to put a squiggly line in front of dealing with the government, we are working very closely, but the exact time frame we will get them is unknown. We're very hopeful with the relationship we've got that they will come good in the early stages of 2023. We are, as we announced in our latest quarterly, starting based on the back of our updated network, commencing offtake discussions with a lot of traders and a number of smelters, and obviously very soon already in discussions with some major project and financing partners to commence that at the back end of the DFS and the subsequent periods after that. Getting into where we're sitting as a company, the tin price pullback has certainly given a pullback on our share price. Previously trading as high as 95 cents at the early of this year. We've pulled back quite substantially with the tin price, I'd say in parallel to most of our listed peers. So certainly feel it's correlated to the tin price, including a number of the producers. So again, where tin sits and its role in the critical minerals suite, definitely think there's opportunity there for investors to get in at a time when there's some opportunity here. Market cap's $55 million. Still got $6.3 million cash in the bank at the end of our last quarterly. Gives us a very I would say cheap EV of just under 50 million. In terms of our major shareholders, directors and management own 12% of the company. My major shareholder, my largest shareholder, is my chairman, Andy Gregg, who I'll take through later. And we also got some other large funds and private individuals sitting there on the register noted on the right. Debt free as well. We cleaned that up as well as last year, completing a significant consolidation to get us out of the penny dreadful stocks. So our board is very experienced. Andy, as I said, he's not only my non-exec chairman, but also my major shareholder. He ran the Bechtel Group's metals and mining division he was in the company for 35 years and ran their metals and mining division for 13 years. For those who don't know Bechtel, it's the US's largest engineering and construction company. Lots of military contracts, lots of very, very significant EPC lump sum turnkey contracts. So Andy has very experienced and got some very good relationships around the world. There's myself, who I'll move on quite quickly, and then there's Brett. Brett actually is the executive director of Metals, which is Australia's premier tin mining company, and their major shareholder, APAC Resources. So having Brett on the board certainly brings a wealth of tin knowledge and experience, as well as his history as being a project developer for major contractors as well. As well as Corey. Corey runs Platina Resources, who some of you might know, currently doing some gold exploration in the West. And Calvin brought in the Cleveland asset a number of years ago and is very supportive Ned on the board as well. So Kerry, that's me. I don't know how I went for time there. It looks okay.
You went absolutely spot on, bang on. Well done, very impressed. However, I'm going to call you out on this one. You went through the board, but you didn't talk very much about yourself. So I want to know a little bit about why you like these projects and why tin for you.
Tin for me is pretty much, I'll repeat what I said at the start of the slides. Tin is a metal that's played a critical role in the whole history of global development. From its role with copper creating bronze, and the Romans were first mining tin in the south of Spain. So it is the one that's played a critical role through our whole development, and certainly its role in solder. As soon as you understand the solder market a little bit and the critical way it is used in everything electronic, you just can't see anything and any version of the future with Earth moving to an automated, electrified future away from fossil fuels. Can you think there's not going to be huge amounts of tin being used? So certainly that's what attracted me to tin. And secondly, what attracted me to Elementos certainly was having the board I do, the experience on that board, and certainly you can't go past having your chairman as your major shareholder, and you know, having that intimate relationship of working so closely together to not only look after all your shareholders, but also your chairman as your major shareholder. So we're always looking at forward in the right way. We're not looking to drill this thing out and flick it. We're looking to develop these assets and become tin miners. That
was going to be my next question. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening, please pop your question into the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen there. Question on Tasmania. You know, Tasmania can be tricky at times. Joe, are there any environmental issues around the Cleveland mine?
So I'll make a comparative statement. We are not in the Tarkine region. We are not in a sensitive environmental region. We are in an area which has been not only historically mined, and there's a lot of disturbance from historic mining operations, including tailings dams and ROM pads and all these things from the existing operations. But in addition to that, it has all been logged many, many times over. And currently in the current Tasmanian plans, it is slated for future logging operations. So certainly, compared to some of the other tin and tungsten assets in the region, which have significant environmental opposition, we don't. And in so much to say, our historic interactions with some of the protest groups has been they support the restarting of brownfield mining operations above greenfield, new greenfield operations. So in a lot of ways, we feel we've got their support to restart Cleveland at the appropriate time.
I've got a question that's come in. Cleveland was an operating tin mine and has been assessed as such. How does the recent intercepts of tungsten affect the assessment and plans for Cleveland?
Yeah, I guess we're at the early stages of that assessment. We still want to wait for a couple more drill holes. We still have 3 drill holes to come in from that program. But it's certainly safe to say with tungsten being on the Australian government's critical minerals list, as well as and tin not being on that list, it certainly puts an extra focus on the tungsten. And certainly when you start comparing the critical mineral lists around the world, tungsten is the one that's on all of those lists. So while tin is nearly on all of them, except the Australian government, it certainly puts an extra headlight on that. And certainly we think large parts of the plant and the mining operation can be used. Whilst you wouldn't run them together, it could be a batch processing or certainly a stage process where you might mine out the tin copper resource first, then move into it being a tungsten operation. So we want to further define that tungsten resource. And once that's done, we'll move into the maturation studies.
Joe, in terms of both projects, one in Tasmania, one in Spain, opposite sides of the world, pretty much, on a percentage basis, is a lot of it going into Orphasia at the moment, or with Tasmania, sort of we've got it here, we know what we've got to do, but really we want to get into production with the project in Orphasia.
Yeah, at risk of making my Tasmanian, shareholders and stakeholders, but the focus is on Orphasia right now. With our cash position where it's sitting, the fact that we want to move into cash flow, and the fact that we want to take it through into construction, into operations, yes, 85-90% is focused on Orphasia on a daily basis, with Cleveland being playing still more as an exploration project. So certainly the heavy lifting is all around engineering development, construction plans, into financing, as opposed to Cleveland, which really is looking at as an exploration and development project.
Now, obviously, the tin price, it's overshot itself like the nickel price did. So the pullback was inevitable. But the pullback has been a little bit more severe. Has that affected plans at all in terms of bringing it into production, especially Orphasia?
Not at the moment. Obviously, it's fair to say the current price is slightly below where we ran our last study at. We're very confident that all the data we're seeing from all the analysts, International Tin Association, everyone, is exactly what you said. It looks like it's been an oversell. There is large evidence out there that there's been significant shorts made, especially on the Chinese market. And certainly it looks like there's a lot of financial games going over rather than the fundamentals. So as I said, we've got the chairman who's a shareholder. We're totally backing getting this thing into operation. The deficits are going to be real. So we'll make our long-term view on this. We're not going to be dissuaded by short-term movements. And we believe in the fundamentals that Orphasia will get into development by 2025.
Well, I give you 10 out of 10 for energy and excitement about the project. It's coming across of how much you are so enthusiastic about it. Keep us posted as developments come out. I'm sure you will, to the market. Exciting times for Elementos. For now, thanks for joining us at the NWR Aussie Resources Conference.
Thanks a lot, Kerry. Appreciate it.